Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. I'm your co-host, Strat Daddy. We have the Master of Hair with us. Captain America is eventually going to be here. We waited for him. He's on a coaching call from Europe, showing everybody off the Eiffel Tower or some shit. But he'll be here.
He's on European time right now.
Yeah, he's on European time. But the whole goal of this is for us to talk to interesting people and give you things that you can implement in your business today and go and make more money, right? All these skills that we've had to learn, put together, we're going to do that. So today we're going to talk about the perfect sales system. I'm going through some hiccups and what we're doing with the challenge, and I was like, what's a better way than just asking Dean and Jason what they got going on? We got 20 leads a day coming in, and it's like a fucking fire hose. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
That's a lot, bro. That is a lot. Yeah, I feel for you, bro. I mean, everybody says they want more leads, but there is a point where you get where there can be such a thing as too many leads at one time, dude. So it'll be interesting to talk.
We're hiring on an admin this week, but I've already started putting out. I need another sales rep. Like it's too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Especially like PPC wise, because you want a sales rep to take it live. You can't just like have a leads manager take that. I don't think you want a sales rep to take that live and everything else.
That's right.
But we have the master of hair here, Mr. Jason Pritchard.
Hair's out today, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the stream. I see you guys on IG. I see you guys on Facebook. We appreciate your love and support. It is the master of hair, Jason Pritchard, long-term sales manager in corporate America. I left corporate America almost 10 years ago, bro. 10 years in the game. It's pretty crazy, actually, to say that out loud, man. We've been doing this a long time. Yeah. Burned the boats in 2014, and we have not looked back since, man. Done 400-plus deals. We own a rental portfolio of just over 100 units, mainly in Central California. And like we always say with our show, the goal is to try to transfer as many of the things that we've learned over the years to you guys that are watching at home, so you don't have to make the same mistakes, and we can take your guys' learning curve and go like this and compress it to make sure that you guys get to where you want to go faster. So excited to talk about this. This is something near and dear to my heart, man, so it should be a good one.
100%. And then I guess my claim to fame right now, we're on our 0 to $1 million challenge. We have a 7-figure real estate portfolio. We have we've scaled multiple businesses to 7 figures in revenue, but not 7 figures net in 18 months. Right, yeah. Profit. Like it's a very, very big difference with all those cogs in there to be able to get to 7 figures profit. And so I think this will be a good episode. But bro, tell me about your sales process. And I don't know if you're Nick Perry'd completely like out of it. What does it look like start to finish? Do you have auto drips coming in? Who talks to that lead first? Let's say from an inbound mail lead or PPC lead, not necessarily a cold call.
Yeah. So we have our acquisitions team, which is built of Scott. We have another in-person acquisitions rep, and then we have 4 callers. So think of them as like the safety net. So any inbound leads that come in from mail, PPC, SEO, organic search from our website, it goes in and it's a simultaneous dial to everybody on the sales team. So we're a very, very big believer in answering those calls live. And I feel like the likelihood of you converting goes down significantly if you don't answer them the very first time that they call in, because you guys have to remember those sellers are never going to be more engaged and ready to listen to what you have to say when they pick up the phone and call you. So not answering live, in my opinion, is not an option on my team. So step 1, call comes in and everybody, all hands on deck, answering that phone call.
What's up, Tina? You okay?
I figured it out.
Okay, my guy, I'm working right now. If you're not hurt, I'll talk to you when I'm done, okay?
Get Zeno on the phone. I bet you he can close some deals for you, dude. You got to get him in the trenches with you, man. Follow him along. That's right.
He'll close some fucking deals. He got in a fight at school today to where one kid wouldn't leave his space. And so that kid scratched him, and Zeno scratched him back. I don't know. He defended himself.
He's not wrong. I'm glad he stood up for himself. I don't know.
Right?
That might be a better way to handle it, but I'd rather have that than have the other kid smack him around a little bit, dude. So I think it could be worse, bro. I wouldn't worry about it.
What does your process look like for like a PPC lead or an SEO lead?
Fast as possible. Speed to lead is a term that you hear a lot, and everything has to stop because you guys have to remember, if somebody is going and they're clicking on somebody's advertisement, or they're going and searching organically for my website or how to sell their house fast for cash in Fresno, California, they're not just going to your site. They're going to your site, and they're going to usually a handful of your competitors' site. And I've had this happen even when we've been really fast. Other competitors in our market, just because they got the lead sooner to us, were able to lock the deal up because we were just slower on the trigger. So it's a process in our system. When those leads come in, we get an alert in our CRM. Everybody knows what's going on, and we've got to, first person up has to go and start contacting those people ASAP.
Does everyone get the alert, and it's like whoever gets to it gets to it?
Yeah, it's like we don't do. We've done rotations, we've done round robins, we've tried to do like the fair democratic way. And in my opinion, sales is not a democracy; it's a meritocracy, and it's all about performance. Sales is a performance-based business, so there is no everybody gets their fair share of leads. The leads come in, we're spending lots of money to get those leads into the system, and I want the people that the hungriest, that are the highest performers, those are the ones that need to have access to it. And there's a reason why, typically you have a sales board and the same people show up over and over and over again at the top of those numbers in those rankings, is because they're just driven and wired in a way where they want to be first, man. So I want to give those people an opportunity, and if you're constantly missing those opportunities, that's on you, not on me.
How's that been on the morale? I know Scott's a killer. I don't know who your other rep is though.
Pretty good, dude. It's important because I say that it's a meritocracy, not a democracy, and I believe that. But the culture that you have in your team, especially on a sales team, is very, very important. And even though there is kind of a competitive nature sometimes amongst the team itself, like, it never exceeds the company goals, if that makes sense, right? So the vision, and everybody's driven for the business or the company to be successful. And then the individual sales reps have their goals, for them as an individual. And so I feel like the best sales teams that I've either been involved in or I've led, the overarching team goal supersedes what I want to do as an individual. So I'm not looking to the left or right and being like, fuck this guy, fuck this guy over here. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little bit of healthy competition is okay. But when it's too much, then it's not about the team anymore or the business. It's about how I'm doing as an individual. And I think you've got to balance those. And that's our jobs as leaders, right? We have to lead, set the tone, and create an environment where the team and the business is the main thing.
Have you, do you have like a company incentive for the team goal or no?
We don't have a company incentive right now, but comp is something that you can fool around with, and it's something that I think you should tweak. And we have certain players on the team that are not actually sales, but they drive sales, like either an administrative and operational role, and they get a little bonus every time the team does a deal, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And so there's certain people that don't move the needle necessarily on the acquisition side, but I bonus them when the team does a deal, because this, dude, just signing the deal isn't everything. You have to get that deal into title, open escrow, clear title. Those sellers need to be corralled and followed up with, and all of those things. So it doesn't just stop there. So I have compensation in place for some of our ops and admin people based on team bonuses, but not for the sale right now. I probably need to figure something out. Like, we'll do random, like, hey, if we exceed X amount of contracts this month, then I'll pay for a night out for everybody type of thing. Yeah. Or we'll get some swag for people or things like that. I think those things kind of sprinkled in on top of your regular compensation is a good way to boost that culture and the morale for a team.
Do you still have one of your VAs closing deals or no? Or is Scott running around more?
You know what? It's crazy, dude. We went from, like, I'd say 80-90% virtual, where my VA was closing the bulk of our deals, and then I was filling in on appointments here and there. We went almost to the other end of the spectrum when Scott came on, and we found we were getting deeper discounts and closing more opportunities when we're going on site. But it's actually interesting, bro. We're seeing that we're getting beat out because even the time that it takes, if we're going on an appointment the next day, some people are just locking it up right now, bro.
Someone's going to lock it up over the phone.
Yeah. So I think we went to the other end of the spectrum, and now we're slowly kind of finding the middle ground where it makes sense. Because, like, I know Dean's going to jump on and he'll have his 2 cents on this, but I know his team is doing more of a virtual model. And when you've got a company like Dean's that's very well-oiled machine that knows what they're doing and run numbers really good, they have the capacity to close over the phone, and we may not even have a shot to go on an appointment. So you gotta be careful with how you balance that.
All right, I'm done fucking with you, Dean.
I'm like, well, okay.
I was wondering what
happened here.
Captain America finally joined us live
Let's
from
go.
somewhere in Europe with the Deal Champs hoodie, looking sexy.
In Europe. Hey, I'm wearing this Deal Champs hoodie all over Europe. Just letting them know.
Is that the embroidered one? I haven't
is.
worn my embroidered one yet because I'm saving it for a special occasion.
The wife likes it, man. She's like, yeah, this is better than all the ones just because it just looks even higher quality.
Yeah, it looks a little bit cleaner, more professional. I like it. I like that one too.
Yeah, it's a good one. Sorry for being late. Just had a coaching call went long there, but perfect sales call. I like the topic.
Well, perfect sales system, because Jason's talking about how they're losing out on deals because they aren't locking them up over the phone immediately. And I don't think you guys do any in-person appointments really unless Lewis goes. What does your sales system look like as soon as like a lead comes in? What's that process? Is it like ring everybody and it's eat what you kill like Jason's is, or what?
Yeah, so it's first come first serve model. So when the lead comes in, it rings everybody's phone. So we use Resimply, okay? We use Resimply, and our call flow is set up so it rings every salesperson's phone at the same time. And whoever picks up first and hits, I think it's one. Whoever hits one first gets a call, and they are ferocious. Like, they will talk about it on our sales calls and be like, I don't know what's happening, but I press that before like the phone even rings and it's already gone. Like the other person already got it. So we do first come, first serve. And once that has taken place, our sales guy will take, are you looking for the echo?
Yeah, I'm looking for this echo.
Yeah,
is it on me?
Because everything's going into our headset. No, I think it's you're playing it on speaker, bro.
Oh shit! I don't even have a headset. I'll just mute. Keep going.
Yeah.
Hey, I always got my headphones with me, even in Europe. I'm ready to go. But yeah, so once the lead comes in, okay, we will immediately go to our ARV thread, okay, ARV text thread. The team will request the ARV, and my business partner, Lewis, runs all of our ARVs. So we're immediately getting the ARV and that feedback to our team as soon as possible. Now, our team is also trained to where when they're on the call, right, they should be in front of their desk. They should do some simple high-level due diligence. They should look at what the Google Street View looks like, right? They should look at what Zillow says. That way, if a seller says anything about Zillow, they have context. They can get context about what Zillow thinks it's worth. But we want to get that real-time ARV back, ideally while we're on the phone. And if it's an especially hot lead, we can just tell right out the gate. We put in the address in the ARV text thread, and we put a fire emoji next to it, okay? And that goes back to in the days when I was running acquisitions. I knew when it was hot, I would request the ARV, and I'd be like, dude, Lewis, I'm on the phone right now. This is a hot deal. I need this. I might be scheduling you for an appointment, or I might be locking it up right now. Like, I need this ARV now. So that was a tone that we set early on is fire emoji means, hey, we need this. This is a hot deal right now. So that's the next step. From there, okay,
real quick, go over who's running comps, because I think my admin, we have so many leads that I cannot run comps on all these things and keep closing deals. Like our admin just has to pull comps, see where we need to be at, and do that. Because if I'm going back and forth, I did the math on 20 leads. If each lead call goes 20 minutes, but we're on the phone for hours that day. You don't even have time to fucking run comps and dispo and everything else. So who's running the comps for you guys? So
my opinion at scale is you need to have a dedicated person to running comps. Okay. Now, the more skilled you are, the more experienced, the argument is that, hey, you can just run your own comps while you're on the phone if you're capable of doing that. Some people are not good at talking, thinking, typing, doing all those things. I personally developed that skill. I would not say I had it from day one, but with time, I got used to typing everything the seller was saying, taking all the notes real time. And then as we started to get and progress past the gathering of information and started really getting into, diving deeper into the motivation, I would at that point start running comps. Okay. so that I had a good gut feeling. I would still request an ARV from my partner so he could do that while I was on the phones. Now, what does it look like today at scale? We have a full-time dedicated person running comps, and that still is my business partner, Lewis.
But he's really good at it.
He's really good at it. He can do it
dialed.
on the fly. He can do it while he's in Cancun, wherever he's at. Like, he'll do it from his phone or from his computer. And because he's dedicated to it, he is that much better at it. He's that much quicker at it. And I think when someone can be dedicated and focused on that, it helps take the pressure off of your team, whether they're just getting started or experienced, rather than having the pressure of like taking in everything they're hearing, trying to make some intelligent decisions and ask better questions, and also running comps. It just takes that pressure off, and now they're focused on the seller, right?
Yep.
And focus on asking those good questions. So we send the ARV request while we do that to the dedicated person, which is my business partner on our team. So we have a 2-step closing process. And once we started doing that, the number of deals and the quality of our deals significantly increased. And the whole concept behind that is a couple things. When you have a 2-step closing process, meaning you have an initial call, the seller call, okay, and you have your offer call, what it does is it takes the pressure off of that seller call, that initial call. You're just gathering information. And really what you're doing, if you do it the right way, is you're focused on removing yourself as the decision maker. You're not the decision maker. I don't need to close the deal on this call because I am not the decision maker. I need to take it back to the decision makers, the partners, right? And some people will give people a hard time for saying the partners if they are like, a solopreneur. But by doing that, it takes the pressure off of you. Now you can focus on being on the seller's team. Now you're working.
Reiterate this again real quick. We are never negotiating with ourselves. Like I'm never negotiating against Dean. It'll either be my wife or the partners, and this will go into any situation I am in life. If I don't want to go somewhere, it is on my wife. It is not on me. Yeah. Right? Like, no, you are never the bad guy in any situation. If you can put it on the other person, it's so much easier to negotiate no matter what situation you're in. And that's one thing that I had to learn early.
It's unreal.
And when you're solo, you can use the market, dude. That's what we've always said. Like, we're seeing the market do this. We're seeing other investors pay this, and the leverage works the same way. So if you don't feel comfortable saying my partner, we're saying the market's showing that other investors are buying from this price to this price. And so that's what we can do. And that leverage point will work the same way when you're negotiating that way.
When I learned that in real estate, when I learned that strategy, that approach, I started using it in everything in life. And just to like bring it back to real estate in another scenario, imagine if you're going to a tenant in a property and you just acquired this property. That is sometimes an awkward conversation, especially if you're like, I just bought this house, you need to get out. Instead of doing that and being the person who's in the middle of the conflict, you separate yourself and say, I'm the property manager, right? I'm representing the person that just bought this house. And that is actually still accurate too. So it's just another way to position things in a certain way to have better conversation and better outcomes. So we have that initial seller call I was just talking about, and we're trying to get ourselves on the same team as the seller. We're trying to gather all the information, and that keeps the focus on gathering the information. And my biggest thing, and not to make this a negotiation strategy call, but that's a whole other thing to go deeper on, but just to touch on it, my biggest pet peeve is I want to spend every second necessary on that initial call to get every single thing that's necessary to get what I call all the puzzle pieces. Okay. And my seller script, I have 10 talking points. I want to go through 1 through 10. And while I'm going through the whole entire script, I want to set insanely good expectations from start to finish. And I want to paint the picture for the seller of what a completed deal looks like. So when they leave that call, they feel inside that a deal is going to happen. Now, if they're not motivated enough or ready to make that decision. I want to have clear expectations leaving that call to know what needs to happen in order for them to be ready to do a deal. Okay. And if I'm not leaving the call with the seller and myself knowing clearly on what the next steps are to move forward, whether that's to get a contract signed or what's going to get us closer to getting a contract signed, then I feel like you didn't do your job.
Real quick, let them know what the next steps are 3 different times in the conversation. And so that way they know where we are going. And it's not a hardcore close. And we talked about this at the workshop. We're doing all of our work on the front. So that way you're not coming to Dukes at the end of that phone call. Like, hey, motherfucker, It's time to sign. Right. And then you got a hardcore closing right there. We're setting up all the stage and everything during that whole call. And then you make the offer. And I'm always like, hey, if we could get to an agreeable price point, you ready to move forward today? And we're either going to get a yes or a no. And then we can still we're asking questions to uncover those decision makers along that road to where even if you know, it's okay. And we do have to wait. I won't even talk to them until everyone is there. Like, we're not going to make an offer or send over any paperwork until we can get everyone on the phone.
Yeah. Your sales process, guys, for those that are listening, will work so much better. There's so much less friction when you do it that way versus waiting to the end to try to overcome some random objection that we didn't do a good job of qualifying at the beginning. And setting expectations early and often throughout not just your calls, but like we have a similar process to you, Dune, where we take a lead intake call, then we do an acquisitions call afterwards. And then we're still doing lots of in-person appointments. Every one of those interactions, expectations need to be set before you start those calls, right? Because when you do it that way, it's not like you're putting the screws to some seller at the end, just trying to overcome every objection and drag them across the finish line. It's actual working together, and it's much more seamless that way for sure.
How much does this suck when you think you've got a deal, you think the seller's ready to sign, and you rush through the call because you know that they're ready?
Yeah, they're hot.
You go to send them the contract, and you get 5 objections that come up and just completely squash the deal. That's the worst feeling in the world. So the only way to avoid that is to set the right expectations, ask all the right questions, and not to. Here's another place where people fall short and get surprised. When, to me, at this point, having realized it and done it enough times to realize that it isn't a surprise, it's just a lack of effort. Just by asking the initial high-level question of, what's the condition of the property, or what has you interested in selling right now? That's the beginning question for that talking point. The motivation, that's just the first question about motivation. We have to dive deeper. We have to be genuinely interested and curious enough to ask intelligent questions that uncover more. Because if you just say, what has you interested in selling, Jason? I mean, there's going to be 1 out of 10 people, or maybe even 1 out of 20, that just start telling you everything and just, word vomiting. But most people, you got to, ask another question.
Massage it, take them down.
Yeah.
One thing
we
that's
call it
worked
stretching out those talking points, dude. You got to stretch those talking points out, right? Because if you're going from pillar to pillar very quickly and you're getting 1 or 2 word responses, and then you go to motivation, very unlikely that you're going to do a deal. You stick with 1, stretch it out. And that's where all the rapport is built, guys. Like, all the rapport with the seller is built in those sections where you stretch that conversation out. And that's where they get to know that you're the subject matter expert. They get to know a little bit more about you. You find out what's really going on, and
they know you care.
That's the key into a high-level sales call. It's those sections in the call.
The motivation, like, this has been the key one for the difficult people. I've layered, how long have you been thinking about this? And then I'm like, okay, what was the straw that broke the camel's back that actually made you decide to call me? And then that one is, for whatever reason, that one's opened them up, and they've started to actually pour out whatever that motivation is. So we got that. So your sales rep, are any of you guys having a different person on the initial call compared to the second call? You are, Jason?
I am, yeah, because going back to before Dean hopped on, we were talking about how we field some of the calls or even generate the initial lead from cold calling and stuff. The callers that we have on our team, a lot of those people are virtual, and we do a handoff between the initial lead intake to our closer when we get to like your step 2 in the call. So for us, a lot of times that's either our acquisitions rep or Scott stepping in and basically saying, hey, you talked with my team member Raya earlier about your property on 123 Main Street. And then, so it helps with us where we're creating that separation from the decision maker standpoint. But I also, and I'm sure you're going to touch on this, Dean, I think it's good to have continuity between your call too, because you're talking to the same person. That report doesn't drop off. You're not reestablishing it. So I think it could go either way.
Is this only for cold call leads or is this for all the leads, Jason?
For us, it's all the leads because, again, like I come from the thought process of I don't want the closer doing a lot of the lead generation, right? So if they're answering every single one of those inbound calls, even with inbound calls, you're going to get people that are take me off your list. They're tire kickers. They're people that are not truly genuinely interested, even when we've got really good dialed in marketing coming in. So the upside of not having your high level closers fielding those initial calls is that we're not wasting any of their brain power and their capacity talking to sellers that are not really ready to go. So that's the thought process that I subscribe to. I want my closers talking to the most qualified, motivated leads and let them do their best, right? And that's not them cold calling, or that's not them necessarily fielding inbound calls and sifting through some of the people that maybe don't fit into our model.
How long is your initial intake call, both of you? I found that I'm right at that 15 to 20 mark. If it's someone's a talker, we're going to be at the like 40 mark as far as minutes, but like 20 minutes, if we can really hammer in on the pain and build the rapport, you'd be amazed on what you can get done with 20 minutes. What do you guys
We're probably 10 to 12. We're probably 10 to 12 for that initial lead intake.
Yeah. So I'll go back to your initial question first on who takes the calls. So for me, it's the same person. And that's primarily because we're strictly inbound leads.
Yeah.
We're strictly inbound leads. And the other part of why is because we're not looking to overwhelm our team with leads. We're looking to focus on the highest quality as often as possible. And because that initial call is so important, in my opinion, I don't want to mess around with it. If my closers can have that initial call and they can have a good quality conversation and they can steer that person in the right direction, I want the highest skilled person on that initial call to capture the attention of that seller and keep them from wanting to go to the next person. Because if they leave that initial call feeling like this isn't the right person that's going to help me solve my problem that I have right now, and it hasn't been figured out yet, they're going to want to go to the next person. They're not going to feel, they might ghost you on the next call. So if you can make them feel like I'm ready to sign a deal now, this is the right person, then I have seen it right in front of my eyes. I have done it myself. See it every single month that people will sign right then and there and will not require us to go sign in person, right? We'll do it virtually over the phone. And that's why I continue to focus on just putting the leads in front of them. Now, I go back to the question about the time on the phone. For me, the longer the better. I'd say on average, my team probably does it shorter than what I would do, or I should say what I used to do. I used to, if a person was motivated and I felt like I knew it was a deal, I'd be on the phone for probably an average of 20 to 30 minutes, with some of those calls easily going into the 30 to 40s. And of course, there's going to be outliers above that. I think the longest call I ever was on was like 3 hours. I ended up having to go into the closet just to like keep from waking up my family because I was on the phone for so long. It was like super late at night. But for me, I want to spend as much time on the phone as possible, because if they're on the phone and they're just sharing and sharing, then that's where the rapport is built. That's where they're likely going to just begin to build that trust enough to make that decision. So I don't want it to be too short. You don't want to waste and be on too long. But I think a sweet spot is, like you said, around the 20 mark. If they're willing and able and leaning in, wanting to sell, and they're just needing you to help them overcome some objections or problem solve, then take as long as you need.
When you guys have a lead come in, I finally just figured out how to get a automatic drip sent out when one comes in, because we're all inbound, nothing outbound. Is that what do you guys have set up? And Dean, have you played with the chat bot yet? When they release it, I'm about to implement it. I think it'll be really helpful for our inbound leads.
Haven't played with a chat bot. Very, very, very interested in playing with the chat bot. I know Jason and I, or the three of us, have talked at length about using things like OmniDrip with drip campaigns and stuff like that. I am like so right there on the fence of setting all that up and waiting for the chat bot, and I'm like right there teeter-tottering, because I know there's tremendous value in both. And we do have drip campaigns. We do have an automatic drip campaign for our inbound leads with PPC, some of our PPLs. Trying to think what else. Yeah, so any of those inbound ones that fill out a form, that is the differentiation.
That's what I'm
Anyone
talking
that
about.
fills out a form, an automatic text message and email goes out saying, "Hey, just received your information online." I'm trying to remember what our next question is. I have to look at it right now. But
I got a question in my IG chat. They're asking, and it pertains to this. Pedro Gonzalez said, "What's the name of the chat bot you guys are talking about using?" So fill them in on what that is and kind of what it is, because I have some questions in my live stream about that.
GetReSimply.com.
I'll get you later on that.
Depending on the type of CRM you have, everybody has built a chat bot on essentially ChatGPT that can plug into anything. So if you have like a go high level white label, and if you don't know, just send whatever CRM you're using in the chat and we'll tell you. There's for sure a chat bot there. In ReSimply, they have they're built on ChatGPT, and that's the chat bot. I don't know about Salesforce. I don't think anybody who's watching us uses Salesforce that much, but it's just some type of AI chat bot that has an initiative that it's trying to accomplish. So you can set the initiative to where it's like, hey, I want you to set an appointment, or I want you to get the purchase price, or I want you to build rapport and then get the purchase price. And it just walks them down. And the reason I'm implementing, we're getting like 9 PPC leads between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. And so like we don't have a team member to essentially do that. And so we need that chat bot just rolling and continuing those conversations throughout the night. So then you can wake up, because that speed to lead is real. And we've already had one that came in at 2 a.m. I got to him at 5 and he sold to someone else. Robert Wensley has the SO chatbot built in the Salesforce. That's good. I didn't even know Robert had a CRM.
I think things like this, especially drip campaigns, a lot of times when we're talking with new investors, we try to tell them just stick with simple systems, use the Google Sheet or whatever. But I actually think like investing, and you don't need to buy drip campaigns like from OmniDrip. I think that works really well if you've got lots of leads and lots of follow-up. But I think taking the time to build them out and letting the system do a lot of the work and follow-up for you guys, because I see so many new investors that just don't understand how much fucking follow-up is required to actually close a deal, right? And so they think just because they're not ready to sign now doesn't mean that they're not going to sign. And then they look 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, and then Dean got to sell the deal, or I bought the deal or something. And it's because they're not following up properly, right? And so I think it's a really good investment for especially the new people, as for things that, you just push into long-term follow-up to not let things fall through the cracks. Build out those drip campaigns in your CRM right now and just get in the habit of using them. So then that way you don't miss out on opportunities.
And it's the number one leverage point if you can have the drip campaigns, and it'll keep your energy high, because the reason you don't follow up is because you don't think you're going to make any money by making this phone call. To in all reality, that's when it takes like 8 to 12 touches or whatever to close them on average. To where I lost a deal to Dean, and Dean made 80 grand, and I just didn't follow up with her that week. And Dean and Michael Butler got the fucking deal.
Yep.
Right. And I was like, oh, she's not ready. I'll call her next week, blah, 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 whatever you're telling yourself. I didn't hit the touch point, and bam, we lost it. And it was 80 grand that they made on that.
That's really how it happens, man. It's really how it happens because, especially if they're in touch with someone else, that person who just catches them at the right time, right place, that's when the deal happens.
All right, so we have that. What other questions did you have about the chatbot, Jason?
Nothing. He was just asking what it was. I don't think he understood what the chatbot was or what the purpose of it was. I'll keep filtering in the questions.
I see that being a big game changer in the space. It hasn't quite been rolled out in the way that is something I'm ready to implement. And by that, what I mean by that is there's some people that are doing it well right now on different platforms, and they have it integrated into what they're using. They might be using a couple different tools. They might be exporting stuff out and using it. For me to use what's available right now, I would have to take what I have, pull it out of my CRM, put it into something else, run it through there, have multiple things running. Not to say that that wouldn't be valuable, but for me, it just isn't worth the effort right now, because I feel like we're doing follow-up well enough to where I'm going to wait till Resimply, who is going to have their own chatbot, who does have it now in beta, wait for them to roll that out and then implement it there. And
is it just the effort required, Dean, to like take it out of the system, or are you also concerned about whether or not it actually performs as good as your actual team? Because I feel like there's a performance concern for me too. Like I trust and rely on my team more than I would AI right now to like be able to take that all the way through. So I think it's a two-piece thing.
I don't disagree. I've seen some case studies from some people where they'll show, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. And I know some people who have full-blown systems, they're teaching people how to use it, that I know personally, in the mastermind I'm in, and I've been tempted to check it out, but for me, it's another shiny object. It's a new shiny object that I would go have to chase down, and I got enough shiny objects right now, or things I just need to finish and continue to do better. So,
Gary says he used one integrated with Launch to set up a Calendly appointment, but same thing Dean was saying. There's too much maintenance because there's no like API, and then that's when it gets sticky. The great thing with Resimply is it's everything with Resimply. The benefit is you can't touch it. You can't play too much with it, and you can't integrate anything into it. So you just have to run your business instead of building out your CRM, which a lot of people get into, where they just your operations person is just a fucking CRM person, and it's not really serving the company.
Yep.
All right, so we got that. Jason does it one way, Dean does it another way. Two-step close. All right, so in the last step of the sales process, I will even go, I've done some of them as a three-step close, and I'll just put them on hold. And I'll say, hey, here's what investors are buying at, and then we'll see if they take it. And then if they don't, I'll be like, okay, so where were you at, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? Let me reach back out to the guys. Let me see if we can get there. I don't know if we can. But if we can get close to that, are you ready to sign paperwork today? And they'll be like, okay, yeah. And then I will put it on mute again, because my biggest fear is seller's remorse. I don't want them to feel like it was too easy. Yeah. And so like 100%. Even if it's only like we were talking about earlier, Jason, even if it was only for a fucking $1,000, I will put it on mute for 2 minutes, and then I'll come back and be like, hey, here's what we're saying. I told them we could get to here if you're ready to go. So you want to sign at 48 still, right? Yeah, I'm ready to sign at 48. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's do it.
We have Angel on our team who does it the most. He'll legit put the seller on hold and call us. You know, he'll be on the phone. It'll be like, hey, hold on. I'm going to call the team, put them on mute, add a call myself or Lewis, my partner, and we'll be like, hey, I got the seller on hold right now. Here's where we're at. What do you guys think? What should I do? Here's what I was thinking. And we'll go through it and be like, all right, I'm going to go back and close it. And it helps. It helps with the seller's remorse. That's the biggest thing. And to me, it's an opportunity to soft close and to see if where they're at and willing to go at. And to me, I'm trying to create, I'm trying to create anchors in that price conversation to where I know where they're at, where I can push them down to, and I'm using those negotiation strategies to get the best deal.
Dean, when we were talking at the boot camp, I think we were chatting and you said 90+%, correct me if I'm wrong, you're doing virtual, you're locking it up and then going walking it, right?
Yeah.
What would be, we're not the exact opposite end of the spectrum, but I bet you we're like 60-40 in-person appointments, something like that, right? And we were chatting before you jumped on about how even though our process is as dialed in as it's ever been, like speed to lead, if we're pushing to do an appointment, even if it's the very next day, you know what I mean? And we're talking to them that evening, somebody comes right behind us and locks it up, right? So we're trying to figure out when to maybe come back to more virtual. What would signify from the seller where you feel the need to actually go walk it before you ink the actual contract?
The two most obvious and most common scenarios are, one, the seller demands it, not willing to sign virtual. They're requiring us to come out and see the property, and won't have it any other way, right? You need to see it first. I'm not willing to sign online. You need to come sign it in person. They don't have an email. All these different reasons. It requires to be signed in person. There is no alternative. Okay. The other scenario is the numbers are too close. They're too tight. And we truly need to go see it in person to understand if we can make the deal happen or not. Is it nicer than we thought it was? Is it just too much and we got to be firm on our number? Like the numbers are just too close to call it a deal. So we got to go in person. That's the second time we would do it. And when we do go in person in that second scenario where the numbers are too tight, our obvious goal is to be in person and try to anchor and bring it back down and make sure that's a deal. And if it just so happens to be nicer than we thought and the numbers are the numbers, it's now not as tight. There's enough room. Okay, we'll do the deal. So those are the two scenarios. It's very, very rare. And we encourage our team not to go on appointments unless it's absolutely required, because every time they go out of that office, they're not taking the calls, they're missing out on follow-ups, and they're just burning time. We'd much rather send my business partner, Lewis, to go on the appointment to take pictures, okay, after we've gotten the deal under contract. We'd much rather send one of our preferred buyers to go on the appointment and take pictures. And by the way, that's a double whammy. If they go take pictures and they end up buying it at the price that we tell them that they need to pay, not the price they said they're willing to pay, the price that we told them they need to pay if they want this deal after we've reviewed the pictures and said this will be our buy price, then that means I don't even need to send the deal out. I have a built-in buyer. They're going to take the deal. They're happy, willing and able to go to the property and take pictures for us, even if they're not going to get the deal, because that means they get first shot and they get fed and get fed and get fed. So to me, that's my preferred way to do it.
That model has worked well for us as we've been doing more signings, having preferred buyers, especially as we expand out to markets that are further away.
Exactly.
It just logistically doesn't make sense for a sales guy to wreck his whole day driving to Stockton and back just to go get some pictures of a property. I'd much rather have a trusted buyer that I know is going to perform, walk it. And it's two birds with one stone. We walk it once, they get it. We've got a buyer already. It's done. And then we're ready to go and just need to clear title issues. Are you guys finding, because you're doing lots of volume, are you guys finding yourself having to retrade on the price at all after you walk it? Does that come up a lot, or are you guys uncovering most of what you need to know to feel good about your price to lock it up virtually without having to renegotiate after you've walked it and you've got it in escrow?
I wish I tracked this KPI closely. It'd probably be nice to know. I would say it's probably 1 out of 10 or even higher, like 1 out of 15 that we're having to retrade and come back on the numbers. We just had one today that happened. We actually told the seller, hey, you know what? the numbers just aren't going to work out, and we'd like to go ahead and just pass. We know that you're in a hurry and want to get it done, so feel free to move on. We did our inspections, just didn't work out. And they said, hey, I don't want to go through anything else. Can we just get it done at this price? And because of that, today I resent it out and got it sold immediately. Right. And we'll do
real
really
quick,
well.
Bino. Should we bring Steve Trang on real quick? I'm going live with him right now. Should we bring him in here real quick before I go live?
Bring him in.
To talk about the sales?
Do it live.
All right, let's bring him in here. Steve-O.
So yeah, it's not that often.
Steve-O, I'm going to send you this link. Join this link. We'll see if he comes over. He's in another StreamYard chat.
And Jason, the reason I think it doesn't happen that often is because we're never going in to any deal with the concept of just lock it up.
Yeah.
I think that's another problem that a lot of people will get themselves into, is they have the mindset of let's just lock it up. We'll make it happen, without being really serious about the numbers. And you put yourself in that position when you're just playing the game of highest and best, just get the deal done. If you're truly negotiating the right way, you're going to put yourself into good deals much more often and not be in that position where the numbers are too tight.
Right.
How about you guys? Are you guys having to retrade that often?
No, but I think it's a function of we're looking at a lot of the things first, and then that's creating other issues for us. So I'd rather have 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 15 where it's just not what the seller presented it to be, and do more contracts, right? Than miss out on opportunities because, not even because we're slow, because we're not slow. It's just our model for acquisitions is a little bit different on the back end, and it's creating this gap in inefficiency, right? And so we need to close that gap and probably come more back to what you're doing and what we used to do. Honestly, we just went so far hard in the other direction because we had somebody there to go do it in person that was reliable, that could close.
There's pros and cons of both. I mean, there's someone that we just had on the podcast recently who does more deals than we do, and they're exclusively belly to belly, you know, and won't do it any other way. That is a part of their process. So there's value in both ways. Both ways work, but at least with our model, I know the way we do it, I prefer to do it. I like to do it. I know that we could potentially get better deals if we went belly to belly more often. But it comes down to preference.
Jason, when did you let your other guys start doing appointments?
Say that again. You broke up a little bit.
When did you let your other guys start doing appointments? Who's not Scott? I don't know what his name is.
I want to put them in ASAP, dude. So initially when they're coming on, they're onboarding for a little bit in more in an observation role, right? Following, shadowing, kind of learning on the fly, right? Usually we have like a 60 or 90-day onboarding process for in-person people just so they get comfortable doing it. But we're going to shift and have them go from our observation to participation pretty quickly. And they're going to have to sink or swim, dude. I don't think you can extend like a crazy long leash when you're doing, belly to belly like that. They've got to show that they can perform. Otherwise, we've got to move on to somebody else.
Welcome, Steve-O.
Steve Trang, the man.
Look who we got here. You got to get your mic to work, though.
Yeah, no audio, though.
Bro, the podcast king and his mic don't work.
He is here, dude.
All right. Is that working?
That's working.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right, Steve-O, before we go live and start doing some sales calls, what were we talking? We were talking about the best sales process. I'd love to hear about what you think the best sales process is. Because
RJ's.
RJ. Did he pay you to say that?
The best sales process. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
To where we're all like 2 and 3 step closes. I've been doing like almost like a 3-step close and then a 2-step close.
The hell are you doing the 3-step close for?
I'm just putting them on hold.
So putting them on hold, right? It's a game. You can play the game if you want, right? I personally think that at most you should ever have 2. And when I say 2, I'm talking about like the intake call is one call, and then the actual buy appointment is the second call. If you have a cold caller, obviously that's the pre 2 calls. But I think that the biggest mistake I see people make consistently is talking to a homeowner about everything that's going on, that's falling apart, and how like this is a terrible situation, and then hang up the phone to prepare an offer. Like that drives me up a wall. Like I spent all this time to figure out what's going on in your world. We built up all this stress, all this emotion, like how awful everything is, how great it's going to be when everything's resolved. And then, all right, I'll talk to you later. It's like, okay, this is Stratton. This is your guys' channel. So you guys have been completely ridiculous on my show. So I'm going to return the favor here, right? It's like going to the champagne room. Like, let's get you all hot and bothered and then hang up the phone. Why would you ever do that?
You're not wrong, dude. I mean, you're like working up all this emotion to get them into that state where they're making a decision that's not just based on price and analytics. And then it's just like, okay, yeah. So then you guys just do close one close, one call, one close. Is that the model with you guys?
If the beginning of the call, the expectation is that we're going to get a yes or a no. If that's the expectation at the beginning of the call, then let's get a yes or a no on that call.
That's good. That makes sense. I like it.
Yeah.
See, there's different ways to do it. So
there's only one right way to do it, though.
The Steve Trang way. So in your opinion, because I've done it, I used to do just one call close. That's the way I used to do it. I feel like when we implemented the 2-step close with an offer call being the follow-up call, that's worked better for us from implement a system for a team, right? It's one thing to take the person who's spent the time and the effort to become the expert, but to put people in the seats and have them run it. I feel like the 2-step closes work better for us. So how do you feel like
if you have an inside sales, outside sales, I think that's fine. Right? Or, you have the lead manager, acquisition manager, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I think having a closer who calls a person. So like the other way we just kind of described, right, in our sales training is like, when you go camping, right, and you get the warmth of the campfire, right? Everything feels good. It's nice and toasty. It's comfortable, right? And then we all leave to go into our tents, and now it's cold. Well, the warmth from the campfire is the emotions, right? Once you hang up the phone, like I'm getting a text from Stratton. I got a missed call from Dean, right? Stratton, Jason's tagging me on Facebook. I got to go check all these things, right? I have teleported from this horrific state to now I'm present, right? And then Dean calls me back to make an offer. And like, I was emotional. I was devastated. I can't believe this is happening. My wife is leaving me, right? All these awful things. To now I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, that's just something that's happening. So I hear what you're saying, that you've had more success, right? Like you have more anecdotal, empirical evidence that this works better this way, right? For your team. I get that. I question if it'd be better to have your acquisition guys start from the beginning of the call and then go through pain and then close them versus insert them in the halfway. The other thing too, and maybe your guys' numbers are different, but what we have found statistically is 13% of people that you hang up the phone, you'll never get on the phone again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fair.
We're chasing down. We have 19 people on our due diligence file of people who are like we need to get a hold of to make offers to, and we can't get them back on the phone.
Right? Like for me as a business owner who has spent all this goddamn money to get people to raise their hand, to have my lead manager call them, to schedule an appointment, to put in a CRM, to have my VAs monitor to make sure proper activities are being followed, to have an acquisition manager get the guy on the phone to say, yes, I want to sell my house, and then hang up the phone and never hear from him again. Man, like there's not a lot of things that break my heart more than that. A ready and willing person to do business with me, I'll never talk to ever again. I'll give you another example here, right? And this is not buying a house, but like I took my kid to swim lessons, right? It was a test run on Saturday. I was like, okay, we're ready to sign up. And the front desk gal says, okay, all you got to do is go home, check your email. We sent you something to register an account so you can schedule, right? I'm thinking like as a business owner, thank God, like the guy that founded it is dead, like he as a business owner, I have a person ready to give me money
right now.
And we're adding resistance.
Yeah.
Who, Dean, I'm going to pick on you, Dean. Have you ever been at a store where you're ready to check out and it takes so long to get there to checkout? You're like, screw it, I'm done.
Yes,
I have. I can't think of the exact example right now,
I
but
have done this
being a
countless
business
times.
owner, right? We pay attention to these things more often, and I've definitely been there where I'm like, guys, I want to give you my money so bad, like I'm ready to give it to you, but you're not letting me. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, you're giving me unnecessary sales resistance.
Yeah. So I want to clarify because what you're saying makes sense, right? And we may be doing it different, and that's fine. What I want to clarify, because you mentioned leads manager, closer. Are you taking that initial inbound lead, fresh, never spoken to them ever before, gathering information, going through the 4 pillars and some, getting to the price conversation, having done your due diligence, running some numbers and comps, whether that's a supportive team member or the initial person taking the inbound call, to then getting to price and an offer and a contract sign in that one call?
No. So have we done it? Yes. Do we preach that model? No. Right. I know RJ does that really well. Right. That's his entire King Closer model. Right. It works for him. It's fabulous. And I think for a person like RJ or a smaller organization, I think that's great. So for majority of business owners, I think that's a perfectly fine model. As you scale, it's gonna be harder, right? Like as you scale, you want to have more specialization. You want the best people in the best seats, right?
Yeah.
But initially, if you're on your own, I think that's a fantastic model. So one thing I would qualify here, right, is that what I would say is I would treat that call as an intake call, and then in the middle of it, hey Dean, can I just share something with you real quick? It sounds to me like you're ready to just get this situation taken care of right now. And like, yes, that's the case. Okay, so if I can make you an offer that meets your price and meets all your expectations, deals with everything you need, you're telling me at this moment you would be prepared to commit to working with me. And you say yes. Now I'm transitioning to a close. Right. So I'm going to start it off as an intake call, and if I get the feeling that this is going to be a 1-call close, then I'll transition to a 1-call close. Versus starting off as a 1-call close, and now they're like, "Well, hang on, we're moving kind of fast, and now I got to save this." Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, when you clarify it, I agree. I mean, that's more or less the approach. If the seller is ready to sign, we're not hanging up the phone. Let's get the contract signed. But generally speaking, more deals than not, we're pushing it to an offer call so that we make sure we have all the right information, and we've got ourselves prepared to get that offer put out to them, follow that process, and get it done. Now the offers aren't taking days.
I'm in the minority here, but no pun intended, right? I'm in the minority here where I prefer to have the numbers available before the call starts.
Yeah.
Right. Like my lead manager scheduled an appointment for me to talk to a homeowner about buying their house. I like to have those numbers beforehand.
What if it's all inbound? And
like just calling us?
Like speed to lead with like PPL and PPC stuff to where like just call them.
Sure. So what we've done in the past with the acquisition managers is they took the calls and they were not as good as comping, unfortunately, right? That's just the reality of the business. So I'm saying, like, if my lead manager scheduled an appointment for me to take the call, I'm prepared to make an offer on that call. For my acquisition managers, that just unfortunately was not the reality. So more often than not, they were taking the information, doing the 4 pillars that Dean's talking about. And really the 4 pillars are not really as critical to me as well. But they're doing the intake call to set up the subsequent call.
So would you agree to keep them on hold when we're doing that 2-step close, or do you? Because like we're
yes,
talking at the
yeah.
beginning.
If you're gonna, if keeping them on hold is an option, like we're talking like, hey, they're ready to do business, we got to run our numbers, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. Do not disconnect, right? Because like when they disconnect, they transport back to reality, and that's the worst case. We do not want them to transport back to reality.
So put them on hold. Tell them like, hey, we just got to run our numbers real quick. Give me a couple minutes.
Yep.
If we can come in at like 48, are you ready to move forward today? Yes. Awesome.
Are you prepared to commit to working with us? Not are you ready to move forward today? It's just these little things, right? Like I'll commit to working with you, but like, are you ready to move forward today? Kind of feels like pressure.
Aggressive. Okay.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, would you, if we can agree on price and everything else, like, would you be prepared to commit to working with us?
I like that.
It's innocuous.
I like it too. Little nuances are very important.
Mm-hmm.
I like the transport back to reality. That was my biggest learning lesson from this call today, because it is, when you really think about it, you get them in the exact state that we want them to when we're asking them for that commitment. And then you're like, fuck it, I'm off and let me come back to you. And you never hear from them again. That 13% number was also good too. And because we do it, and that's such a morale crusher, not just for us as the business owners, but also for your team members, dude. Like they did all that damn work. They're following your process. And then they got to chase that person around, and they're like, you know, it just kills. It kills all the momentum, all the drive.
Yeah, that goes to me.
Yeah, I like that.
Hell yeah. You guys have any other questions?
No, I appreciate you jumping on, Steve. It was kind of impromptu, but that worked out well. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
All right.
My
Glad you still got your NFT in the back too. It looks great.
Thank you. One of these days, I estimate maybe in 2028, I can.
You'll be rich, dude.
For it.
Yeah.
I think the founders will be like in the middle of the ocean, bro. I don't think the founders are going to be alive in 2028, bro.
Oh no, this one's fine, right? Because this one's an Alex Becker and Elio trades. Like I'm not worried about this one as much. Like for sure, it's not coming back, but it's not like the Bored Ape stuff and all these other NFTs, right? Because all those other NFTs
are those even worth?
Those are just pictures, right? So like this one
what's
is
yours?
a key. It's actually a key to a blockchain mastermind. Like it's still an active community.
Oh, there's a utility there. Yeah.
There's a utility, right? Like someone bought one of these for $300K a few months back. So like there's actually value to being in proximity to Alex Becker, the founder of High Rose. I don't know if you guys use High Rose.
He's a savage, bro. He's a savage.
Yeah. I see his ads. I haven't used this stuff
Yeah, you definitely see his ads, right? So like of all the NFTs, this is the least bad. Not good. It's just the least bad.
The least bad.
Hell yeah.
Solid.
Well, thank you, Steve-O. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Me and Steve-O are going to go live on my YouTube channel and my Instagram, because he thinks he thinks I'm doing some things wrong according to our call yesterday, and so he wants to coach me up.
Nice. Yeah, listen. I've had a chance to work with Stratton for a long time, right? Like he was the one I shared. Like I didn't know this. He hid this fact from me, right? Like he was paying for my coaching with his IRS refund, right? He didn't share that with me because if he told me that, I wouldn't have taken his money. Like I'm not gonna take your last $500, right? But like Stratton's well trained. He's an assassin, right? Like prior to working with me, he was already working with John Martinez. He was already working for other crews in I think Salt Lake City and Southern California, right? Like Stratton's a savage. All I was saying yesterday is he might have gotten sloppy, so let's just clean it up.
You can always get better.
You're gonna always get better. Steve-O, I'll see you in the other link, my man.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And are we missing anything else? We got any other big things coming? Maybe some big stuff in July.
Quick teaser. We got a big meetup in SoCal, Southern California, coming up probably in July. So I think that's going to be hot.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.
Peace.
Peace.